Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I implore you to listen carefully to what I am trying to tell you. When I have criticized our local community college in Jefferson County, Ohio, it wasn't to tear it down. I love the idea of a community college. It can be capable of great good. In my 29 years of dedicated service at Eastern Gateway, I only missed about 13 days of work. I'd come in and help out on my days off. I tried my best to get management to squeeze your tax dollars as hard as they could. And for all my effort, they lied to me and then laid me off. But I remain a loving critic. When I was at the college, and even now, I occasionally have someone that will say to me, "To do the work is hard, but criticizing is easy." Criticizing is easy? That's why I do it! Look, if I'm sitting next to you in a restaurant and you hear me call the server over and I start complaining about cockroaches in the salad, you wouldn't say to me, "Criticizing is easy." You would say, "Thank goodness you told us about the cockroaches in the salad before we ate the salad." I'm trying to warn you about what we did with your tax money and what they are still trying to do. It is easy to make a video or write blogs on the internet and tell you the truth. But wait a minute, you know what's easier than criticizing? Criticizing when you're in charge. And who was in charge from around 1999 to 2015? It was the third president, the woman from Kansas. The time period when the wheels came off the bus. Criticizing is easy. The racism at the college should have been obvious to everyone. How can you serve our community if you don't look like the community? Towards the end of my 29 years, the college finally, on the main campus, hired a full-time African-American instructor. I think he stayed 2 years and he left. I asked people who were at the college from the beginning, and no one could remember any African-American full-time instructors. If there were any, it must have been for a very short time, and they mustn't have been very memorable. Seems almost impossible to go 45 years in Steubenville and have this happen. How about deans? My 29 years, all full-time secretaries were all white women. There were other divisions throughout the college with similar records. I kid you not, I once sat through a meeting with the president and vice presidents where the topic was, "Why don't black people want to come to our college as students?" Not one person pointed out that at the time, we didn't have a single African-American full-time instructor, and we had a long history of not hiring full-time African-American instructors. Who had the community's back? I never heard anything from the college unions, city or county council members, local watchdogs, business owners. Employees served on the hiring committees. We often just hired other employee family members or people we thought we'd like to go to lunch with. I never heard this president speak out to help fix this, not a first year, 5th year, 10th year, or 15th year at the college. Criticizing is easy. Under this president, nepotism was out of control. I took a blank sheet of paper, and in a half hour, I came up with 50 relatives. So that's 100 people related to somebody. That's just parents, siblings, and husbands and wives. If I throw in friends, cousins, and one department who loaded up with members of a certain club, it became so ridiculous you wouldn't believe it. In one case, a family of 5 at one time or other drew a paycheck. You could have walked into the bookstore and seen a husband, wife, and her mother. Husbands and wives sharing offices all over the place. You ever work for a company heavy on nepotism? I don't recommend. Do you really think in all these cases we hired the most qualified? Imagine like 30 applications. Many write cover letters. We invite 5 for an interview. They practice with a spouse questions the night before they might get asked. If applied for a teaching position, we might ask them to present a lesson to the hiring committee. They get asked personal questions, and often dumb questions. 2 weeks later, they get a letter saying that we went with another candidate. Then they find out it's someone's brother. In your heart of hearts, did they have a chance? I hate to say this, but if most employees are white, what color is most of their relatives? Not good if you hear about the nepotism, but a lot of people shrug it off and say, "Well, that's Jefferson County for you." But if you know we're racist, then you might register to vote. Our levy might not pass. The horrible thing is, if just 10 people, and I don't care, black, white, red, pink, polka dotted, would have walked peacefully up and down the public sidewalk on Sunset with signs saying racist and recall the levy, I can almost guarantee all of you would have been invited in and given donuts and your drink of choice. We would beg you for 2 more months. We would have started to fix the problem. Levy dollars at risk does that. We could not have had that in the news. Think of the population of Jefferson, Brooke, Hancock counties. You only needed 10 people. We actually joked at night, another day, no more picketers. This president could have spoken out. I never heard her say anything about nepotism. Not a first year, 5th year, 10th year, or 15th year. Criticizing is easy. Under this president, in my opinion, the main campus defrauded Jefferson County out of millions of dollars. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. During the evening hours, instructors often miss classes and let students out early each week. Classes were measured in credit hours. A credit hour is usually like 50 minutes. We use the measurement for calculating your bill, how much tuition you're going to pay us, how much we pay a part-time instructor, how we determine full-time instructors' course load. Other colleges use it to determine how you transfer into their college. Employers use it in hiring our students. The government calculates some of the money we get for how many credit hours we've taught. Many students who came in the evening never received the education they and the taxpayers paid for. Teachers would toss out excuses like, no one had any questions, or the Steelers are playing tonight. It's too hot, it's too cold, it might be snowing. Instructors were hired sometimes the day the classes started and didn't have time to prepare, often skipping finals week. Name me any other profession that you would put up with this. If your kid in 8th grade came home 3 hours early because her teacher had tickets to a Pirate game, you'd have a fit. If you call a furnace repair guy and you say that your furnace is making a wickety-whack sound, you're told, I know exactly what that is, and the book says it's a 10-hour job, so $30 an hour, it will be $300. You agree, and the guy comes over for 1 hour, fixes it, and leaves. You get a $300 bill, so you call the guy. Well, I told you it was a 10-hour job, but you were here only an hour. But it's a 10-hour job, the book says so. Would you pay the bill? No, it'd go into the trash. But the college did this for years. The solution was easy. Most of the teachers were part-time with just a semester contract. Just don't hire them back. But the problem was who we hired. You can't get rid of high school teachers or counselors who took this part-time gig. They could go back to the high school and talk our future students into going somewhere else. We also hired our staff and management. Don't want to tick off a department or worse, a vice president. Ministers? No. Access to too many people during levy time. Business owners? The same. Then there were the instructors who would be hard to replace, like a specific engineering class. One came into the employee lounge, went into the bathroom, didn't shut the door, dropped his pants in front of us during dinner hour, and did his business. Twice. 2 separate weeks. They hired him back the next semester. I honestly believe that if we lived in a just society, this president and her hand-picked executive vice president belong in prison for fraud. What else would you call asking for levy money, federal and state money, and not providing the education paid for? The college should have to put a few million into a fund, divide it between the former students who were ripped off. Another couple of million given to Jefferson County to make up for the tax dollars from the levy we ripped you off for. You think this is outrageous? It's not. Maybe this president and vice president could chip in a few $100,000 for each fund. This president did nothing to stop us, her first year, 5th year, 10th year, or 15th year at the college. Criticizing is easy. Under this president, I complained for over a decade that we didn't charge for computer printouts. Almost every place charged 10 cents to a quarter for each printout. How much walked out the front door in the form of 100 chicken recipes, video game walkthroughs, or pornography from jump drives? One number I heard was around $50,000 a year. And that sounds about right. Think how much you pay for your printer ink cartridges and reams of paper. We had 6 heavily used computer labs in the library. Thousands of people coming through each year. Over 10 years, the length of the levy, we're talking about $500,000. That could have bought the county a couple of fire trucks or ambulances. Or I know, how about education? like new tables to replace our stupid old desks. Overweight people had to request ADA tables. Or how about $5,000 of fund to fulfill our promise to seniors to take free community education classes? These are classes like how to use a camera or line dancing. We wouldn't get enough paying students, so we would try to shake down the seniors who had signed up. How sick and embarrassing. This helped kill one of our great community education classes. Or we could have bought some new books for the library. A college library with no new books? I mean, it was ridiculous. Can you imagine being a working mother and you have to feed your kids pasta 4 times a week? They get their shoes from the church basement out of the clothes closet or whatever. And then you're put a gun to your head and you're forced to pay taxes and it goes to the college and they walk out the door. Your money all walks right out in the form of chicken recipes. It was ridiculous. Even if that's a high estimate, let's just say $300,000 if it makes you feel better. It was well over a decade before we convinced the president to put on a fee. She should have been fired for this alone. She didn't do it, not her first year, 5th year, or 10th year. Criticizing is easy. Why didn't she criticize? We spent all of your money, we laughed while we did it, and you did nothing to stop us. For now, it's me, Camroy, here on YouTube.